Man, I don't know, guys. I wanted Microsoft to come out swinging today, shut up all the critics, and make the Xbox Scorpio, now the Xbox One X, the hot holiday item, but I don't know, was it too little too late? Overall, I don't think it was bad at all. I think there was enough in terms of game announcements and reveals. I mean, show-wise, they did this thing exactly how I like it. If you watched my video yesterday on the EA presentation, I really slammed them on their style, focusing on a bunch of nonsense over games. This is what I like to see. Game after game, rapid fire. It did get a little confusing with the whole, what's exclusive to Xbox and PC, what was a timed exclusive, and what's multi-platform. And I'm sure that was a little bit intentional. As far as the name, Xbox One X, I like it. A clever way to get around the whole X-Bone abbreviation. Now we're just back to Xbox. As far as the look of the system, I'm glad it's smaller, but I kind of wish it didn't look so similar to the Xbox One S. I'm already calling it that. There will be some people both mistakenly buying S's, thinking they're X's, as well as people intentionally being deceptive and selling S's as X's. Particularly the non-white bundles, which feature a darker color. I think you're going to see some confusion there this holiday. But yeah, the main focus of this thing was the games, so let's get into some of the highlights. I'm not going to discuss everything because they showed a lot of games, so I'm just going to go through what I thought were the key moments. Forza Motorsport 7 kicked off the show. This was definitely the low point for me, not because of the game. I thought it looked great. But this was really the only time that this show had some of that unnecessary pomp and circumstance. Oh, here's the new Porsche that none of you idiots could ever afford, but at least you get to play it in our game, losers. And here's some genuine racers to show it off to you. They're real racers, so if they approve this game, it must be good. Oh, but of course, before that, we did get the standard Xbox One X rundown as you get with new consoles. It went through all the fancy PC talk that console gamers care so much about, teraflops, liquid cooling, and the such. Of course, they waited to slyly slip in that price more towards the end. We saw a new entry in the Metro series, Exodus. What they showed looked cool, but I noted they mentioned that the footage was captured in-engine, I think, which tells me that hopefully the game will end up looking something like this. Assassin's Creed looked like it greatly benefited from the time off. Actually looks interesting again. I'm assuming now, as a casual player of the series, that a game taking place in the world's sci-fi present day is pretty much dead. I remember in the early games, that's what we felt like it was building to. That Desmond guy was learning all of these skills that we hoped would eventually culminate in a title set in the game's modern day. I guess we can give that up. But there's definitely some interesting stuff here. I mean, giant snakes and various other Egyptian-themed baddies, sweet. More RPG focus on gearing and item upgrades, alright. I'm pretty sure this will be the first Assassin's Creed game I pick up in quite a while. Then they started a sort of mini theme that kind of surprised me. Thankfully still we weren't suffering through a bunch of annoying streamers, but there was definitely a push for that Xbox streaming app, Mixer, and they made sure, along with mentioning it, to highlight the bringing over of PlayerUnknown's, PU, a survival game that's really popular in the streaming community right now, as well as a similar but more cartoony survival sort of game. The Mixer push, I will say, was a little out of place, but nothing too obnoxious, just thought it was odd. And speaking of survival, we saw some more for State of Decay 2, a game I'm extremely excited for. If you want something that's legit, like The Walking Dead the game, and unlike the Telltale games is, an actual game with gameplay, you should really check out the first game. I will admit it was a bit janky, but did, in my opinion, the best job to date of simulating surviving a zombie apocalypse. We went on to the standard indie showcase montage. I really want to know more about that game that looked like Blade Runner. I forget the name, but it looked kind of like a pixelated adventure game. Oh, The Last Night. I've got it right here. Obviously, I take great notes. Anyway, it was certainly a standout for me, and of course, finally, we got a release date for Cuphead, September 29th. I'll be there day one. This has been one of my most anticipated games of recent years. Sea of Thieves was one of the few games I was looking forward to prior to this event, and we got a pretty in-depth gameplay look at that. It looked goofy and fun enough, but I had one problem. I still don't really get what we're doing in this game. Like, okay, we sail around and explore and get treasure and sell it, I guess, but why? I wish we could have seen more of the actual mechanics and why we're incentivized to get said treasure. You know, are we using it to upgrade our ships, characters, weapons, what have you? But they did show what I consider the most important aspect of any pirate game. Yes, it seems we will be able to not only battle enemy ships, but also board them. That alone, in a multiplayer environment, makes this game worth checking out in my opinion. Crackdown 3, I would say, was probably the biggest disappointment. Personally, I've never been a big fan of this series, but this just didn't look interesting at all, and not very good. I mean, we're trying to push titles that really, you know, look gorgeous in 4K, and this just didn't look like one of them. I was expecting some detailed destruction, but the fast cuts made it hard to see really much of anything for long. Ori and the Will of the Wisps will be the follow-up to the game voted most likely to make you cry your eyes out, and the theme seemed to continue with this title. Oh, you think that little owl's cute? Oh, why is he sad? Why is he so sad? Oh, what's that in the background? Oh. Feeling devastated yet? Then we got into the backwards compatibility deal, including updates for past Xbox One games. I, for one, am actually excited to play Crimson Skies again. For you kiddies out there, this was a title that sold many of us on the original Xbox Live. And more original Xbox games will be added to the backwards compatibility list. I'd be interested in this if these games were seeing a significant update in visuals, but until I actually see them, I'm doubtful. And of course, like the PS4 Pro, we'll see past Xbox One games updated with the Xbox One X features. Some of the obvious heavy hitters like Gears 4 were mentioned, but again, until I see a full list as well as dates for when these updates are actually coming, I can't really tell if it's going to have much value. And then there was the big one. EA's cliffhanger from yesterday finally resolved. Anthem gameplay. At face value, I'll admit, looked great. Amazing, even. If you follow my channel, you know I'm a huge Monster Hunter fan, and early parts of this demo with the grouping up, talking about gear upgrades, and the near encounter with the big creature, made me feel like this could be a realistic sci-fi version of that. And then they go underwater, that looked sick. But then, they took out the big wave of soldiers and picked up a new legendary gun. And then I thought of some other games. Games like The Division and Destiny. Titles that boasted similar giant open worlds to explore with your friends that turned out to be much smaller and much more shallow than they did during their original reveals. I'm certainly interested in this game, but with how past similar games have turned out, disappointing in my opinion, I'm going to remain skeptical. So then the presentation ended. Like I said, there were plenty of games in my opinion. Plenty of games I'd be interested in playing. But the point of this was to sell me on an Xbox One X. And all of these games will be playable either on a PC, PS4 Pro, or both, which I already own those. I do think this was a strong showing. If they went this route when they originally revealed the Xbox One years ago, instead of pushing it as a sort of cable TV extension that you watch football on while doing motion gestures to switch channels with the Kinect, maybe they could have surpassed Sony this generation, or at least maintained a closer gap. The problem is, now that we're deeper into this generation, many people who are going to buy a current gen system have already bought their new console or largely made up their mind, most of which went with the PS4. So Microsoft needed to not only sell people on the X, but provide them with enough reason to pull them from the PS4. And I don't think this will do it. Unsurprisingly, the thing will release at $500. Sure, it's more powerful, but it's more costly, and the higher the price tag only goes further in pushing people towards a gaming PC. So in closing, I don't think it's too little, but I do think it's too late. I hope those who are interested do end up enjoying the system. Hell, I'll probably end up buying one to do videos on it and such. And who knows, maybe 4K will take off more, causing more interest in the X, but I think that's still a bit of a ways off. A big problem for all these more powerful systems really is that 4K is just not catching on like HD did. And because of that, I see more people sticking with their standard PS4s and Xbox Ones, and unfortunately for Microsoft, most people sided with Sony there. And I think they will continue to do so. And with that, this video is a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Microsoft's E3 presentation in the comments. As always, I'm John Zaccari, and oh, I almost forgot, Shadow of War looked sick as hell. Loved the first game, and have no doubt that will be a day one buy. The big orc dude was funny as hell. But you know what? Yeah, I'm done. I swear. Thanks for watching.